Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, Donkey Konga kinda returns. Pay me and I'll talk, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society talks with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as I'm always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including Nintendo confirming backwards compatibility on Switch 2, and then on Thursday, we're building our own Brotherships. But Mark, in the meantime, how's it going?
It's going fine.
How do you feel the Zelda quotes thing is going now?
I feel like when there's a good one, I'm really into it.
Yeah, is Pay Me and I'll Talk? Is that
I like
that's
it.
a good one? Okay,
Yeah,
right,
yeah. How about you? How are you feeling?
Some of these. So I think the next one is also about like paying or like not paying enough or something. And I'm eager to get out of this like early shopkeeper part of the game. Like I want to get to the really wacky stuff, and I just feel like we're not quite there yet.
Well, we put out 2 episodes a week, so
that's true. We'll
work through it.
Yeah.
We'll work through it. I have started drinking hot lemon water every morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So my mom knows a nutritionist. Is like neighbors with a nutritionist, and this nutritionist says that that's what she does every day.
Yeah, hot lemon water.
Hot lemon water.
Okay.
And what?
That's the only thing she does every day?
Well, I'm sure she does other things as well. I mean, I'm not her neighbor.
Sure. Or her nutritionist.
Or her nutritionist.
Mhm.
And so, like every morning, apparently, she starts her day hot lemon water. So I've been trying this.
That's all it is. It's just hot water, squeeze lemon.
Well, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
Is that I have no idea.
Right.
I know no details.
You're not her neighbor.
No, I just heard this and I'm like, I might as well try it.
Sure,
like, why not?
sure.
What do I have to lose?
Right.
And so I was telling my mom that, oh yeah, I'd like try it. I've been doing this. And she was asking me, like, how much do you put in? What is the ratio to lemon and water?
Right.
I was saying that I have no idea. Like, this is what I am doing. If it is a small lemon, then I am juicing the entirety of it. And then I'm just adding enough hot water to fill the mug.
Sure.
And then if it's a large lemon, I'm cutting it in half and just doing half of it.
Yes. Saving
the other one for the next day. And filling whatever size cup I have with hot water. That's the extent of how deep I've gone into this. Like, if there is a specific ratio that needs to exist, I don't know it.
Right. If there's a specific temperature that you should not be raising lemony water to,
I don't know it.
You don't know it.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm doing it too hot and it's interacting with the citric acid of a lemon.
Yeah.
And it's just eating up my insides. We'll never know until something happens.
Right.
But this is one of those things where it's impossible to prove whether it's doing me any good or not.
Right. So, okay, 2 questions. One, how long has this been happening?
I've done it since like the middle of August. So it's been a few months.
A while. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. And do you feel different?
It's hard to say.
Okay. Right. This is going to be very difficult.
I mean,
if you can't even self-report if you're feeling any
But
changes.
like, what should I expect to happen?
Well, I guess that was the third question, is what did you hope would happen?
See, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's just general health, which is really hard to measure. Like, maybe when I was flying back from this most recent trip, I would have gotten sick. But because I have been drinking this hot lemon water, I didn't.
Well, it's okay. You're drinking hot lemon water. It means you're getting maybe a little extra vitamin C.
Sure.
Okay. And then like the hot water, that does something to like open up your like nasal whatever.
I would believe it.
Sure. But that could also be like tea. You could be doing this with tea.
You could be.
Or like hot orange juice.
Yeah, but well, yeah, I mean, you could. Now there's a health trend. Boiling orange juice.
Boiling hot orange juice.
Drink it with a straw.
Well, Mark, I wish you nothing but the best, man.
Thank you. Well, really what I was going to add,
yes.
The other thing that this made me realize is that I have no idea
how our bodies work. What nutrition is good.
How to pick a good lemon And does such a thing even exist? Because obviously you can look at like a rotted lemon, a desiccated lemon, and be like,
that lemon's
this
no
is
good.
one I don't want.
Right.
But otherwise, they just all seem to be lumpy and kind of gross looking.
It's a good question. I think, you probably just don't want it to like give too much when you squeeze it, right? Kind of just like all citrus.
Yeah.
Although, like, I want it to be firmer than an orange, right? But maybe not as firm as I want a lime. So, listeners, write in. Check us on this. How do you pick out a lemon?
Yeah.
I feel like you can just tell. I feel like if it smells a little bit like lemon from the outside,
that's nice.
Then that's what you want.
Yeah.
You know what I like to do? Anytime I'm doing like lemon juice in anything, get that zester out, baby.
Oh, yeah? You like the zest?
You get that zest. That's where like the lemony flavor is in there.
Well, I have also heard this is for kidney stones.
Okay.
I know someone who knows.
So if you're not a kidney stone, stop listening.
I know someone who knows someone, and they both suffer from kidney stones.
Yes.
And what that second person says that they do and what they swear by is they blend whole lemons.
Okay.
So and like everything into like, a sludge,
seeds,
and then like freeze it, put it into like popsicle forms or whatever, ice cubes, ice cube trays, freeze it, and then melt it, bring it back up to room temperature.
Okay, it seems like we're adding a step
and
here.
Drink that every morning, like a certain amount every morning.
Drink the lemon sludge every morning.
Yeah, the room temperature lemon sludge.
Okay, so the freezing and melting, that's really just like you're preparing for the week. Like you're getting a bunch of them ready. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I guess it probably makes consuming the whole lemon much easier for it to be room temperature sludge
than to be what?
A whole lemon.
Right. Yes, I understand. Yeah, I would imagine it would be difficult to just like have a lemon in your hand and eat it like an apple.
Yeah.
That would be unpleasant. I would have a hard time doing that.
So,
I ever tell you about in college I used to do a thing like at the dining hall that I called the chow orange, which is where I would take an orange, peel it, and then shove the whole thing in my mouth.
That has not come up. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. When's the last time you did this?
Oh, God, when I was in college.
Oh, okay.
So a very long time ago. It was extremely unpleasant. I would always cry. Sometimes I would almost throw up.
That's amazing.
If you would like to support us, you can head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society. And if you are supporting us there at the 8-bit or 16-bit levels, you will never have to do the chow orange. That's my word to you. But you get access to our once-a-month episodes of miniseries that we're putting out, like NCS Arcade.
Yes, where we are playing games that we've never beaten before. And the most recent episode that just came out is Echo the Dolphin for the Sega Genesis.
Available on Nintendo Switch Online.
That's right. And we are going to be recording for November an episode about Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
Yes, which Mark is playing on Nintendo Switch Online.
Yep, that's right.
And I'm playing the 3DS remake, which includes Bowser's Minions. But I won't be playing Bowser's Minions. I want to have a similar experience to Mark's. But we are also, so in addition to these main episodes of NCS Arcade, we do these listener feedback episodes, which are free for everyone to listen to and free for everyone to email into us. The only thing you need to do in order to participate or to hear the episode is follow us on Patreon, even at the free level. So we are going to be recording. We were going to record it tonight. We are pushing it back 2 days. So as long as you get your emails about Echo the Dolphin into us by Wednesday, we will incorporate them into the listener feedback episode. So do that if you have any thoughts, memories, questions, general thoughts about dolphins in the 90s, whatever. Sega Genesis, who cares? Like, let's get it all in there, and then we will record that shortly.
Yep.
And then Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga comes up just a couple weeks after that. Speaking of places where you can, this is not the transition is totally blown. I messed it all up. You should join our Discord. Email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
And I will send you an invitation. All right, Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. So I don't think we want to dwell on it too long, obviously, because we will be recording an episode about it later. But Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, we are both playing it. This is an RPG, and albeit not a super long one, it is it is a non-negligible number of hours. So we are both like putting in the time now.
Yep, that's right. This is the first Mario and Luigi game that I'm playing, like giving a real honest go. And it is interesting reading some of the reactions to Brothership and just considering the arc of the series.
Yes, and being like, am I not experiencing all of these problems now? All of this not.
It all seem very familiar.
Speaking of, obviously, of course, I am contractually obligated to buy every single thing that Nintendo puts out this year as the final entry in that, probably. I did pick up Mario and Luigi Brothership. Now, it would be crazy to be playing two different Mario and Luigi games at the same time, and I'm not doing that necessarily, but I did start Brothership because I wanted to see it in action. I wanted to see like how it started, what kind of first impression it makes. And you know how the in the direct that revealed it, it starts or it includes a scene of like Luigi being chased by bees and then like falling off a cliff. That is how the game opens.
Oh,
so that is, you know, they decided to tease the game with how the game starts. And so here's what happens, and you just tell me if this reminds you of anything, okay? So it's Luigi and Mario. They're in like their peaceful, normal, like regular world. Luigi starts being chased by an animal. Mario comes to his rescue. The animal in this case is bees, but imagine it could be a dog. And so Luigi gets chased. He and Mario fall into some crazy portal. They are being like whisked through dimensions, and while they're in this like interdimensional tunnel, like Bill and Ted style, Luigi gets separated from Mario.
Okay, so we're talking about the animated movie, the Super Mario Brothers movie.
We're also talking about the opening of Mario and Luigi Brothership. It's insane how much the opening of this game is like kind of a beat for beat retelling of like the beginning of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
So they get separated in Brothership?
Yeah, they start separated.
Oh.
It's a pretty quick, I think, like reunion for them again, but like yeah,
that's funny.
It's really, and like was kind of the first time where I was like, oh, this is the movie has now had an effect on the games.
Yeah, I guess it worked well enough in the movie.
I guess. But what was the name of that dog? The dog in the come on, don't look at me like that.
No, I'm looking at you with my jaw agape because I forgot that there was a dog. Oh, right. Yes. I forgot there was a dog in the movie, but now I'm remembering because they're called on a plumbing job.
Right.
And the dog really just likes them.
Right. And the dog's name is like Sherman or Lawrence.
Oh, I don't remember.
Like that. We're going to figure it out. At some point, one of us will be reading through a list of something else, and the other one will look it up. But we'll figure it out.
Beloved Nintendo dog.
We don't know.
I don't know.
Winston?
Could be.
Could be Winston. But we will obviously be talking more about Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga and Brothership and just in general in the days and weeks to come. But Mark, instead, let's talk about the new releases that are coming out this week.
Today, Tuesday, November 12th, Tetris Forever is released digitally.
Yes, I'm excited about Tetris Forever. This is that collection of Tetris games that we saw teased in that, was it a partner showcase?
Yeah, was it the August one?
It might have been the one that was simultaneously an indie showcase and a partner showcase. I wonder, NES, was it NES? Tetris was going to be coming to Nintendo Switch Online.
Oh boy, yeah, I think that's right.
So that may also be coming soon. I guess we don't know.
Oh yeah, possibly. That's right. That was part of the announcement.
It's only occurring to me now that like, oh yeah, well, I don't think we ever got a date on when that part is happening.
Right. So yeah, maybe any time now.
Cool. And Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna pick this up and play a bunch of different kinds of Tetris, and there are ways, like modes in this game where you like cycle through different versions of like rule sets will change in the middle, and you have to do different kinds of. I'm gonna have fun test driving lots of different Tetrises.
And then on Thursday, November 14th, Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake is released, as well as Lego Horizon Adventures.
Yes. Both like kind of cool, high profile games coming out here after Nintendo has all but abandoned the platform for the year.
I know. I am building quite the little backlog here because I have Mario and Luigi that I need to play. And I have Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake pre-ordered and I'm excited to have an opportunity to play that sometime. But then I feel like I've got to get to Echoes of Wisdom
right
before I get to Dragon Quest III. So I'm hoping that, I mean, we know that Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is coming in January. We have a few other things dated for next year from Nintendo.
It's really just that and Xenoblade Chronicles X, which you're not playing.
So
and that doesn't come out until March 20th. Anyway,
yeah, so I'm hoping that through the holidays and early next year, I'll have a chance to kind of catch up where I've fallen behind.
Where is your excitement level on Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake?
So I have pretty much loved every Dragon Quest game that I've ever played, and I think pretty high.
Pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like if I wasn't playing Superstar Saga, I would boot this up immediately.
Yeah,
when it got released.
That is kind of a little bit of a hang up for me is that we got this Mario and Luigi game that we're playing right now. I have put in 5.5 hours already. So like I feel like I'm maybe a third to a quarter of the way through the game already. So I don't know, like I'm getting kind of itchy to be like maybe I can just like finish this game and then like move on to, like really mainline it and get to Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
And then Lego Horizon Adventures. We've talked a little bit about the Horizon games, just like a teeny tiny bit on this podcast. Are you interested in a Lego version of that at all?
I'm not really, but the fact that it is coming to Switch, I think, is really interesting.
Yeah, because it is a first-party PlayStation project. And to my memory, I don't believe it's coming out on Xbox. Like that they're putting it out on PlayStation and probably PC and Switch. Mark is now highlighting
I'm gonna look
check that is a dubious claim.
Double check. I think.
By the way, I looked it up, and the dog's name is Francis.
Francis.
And I was
beloved
so close
Nintendo dog
with
Francis.
Lawrence.
Yeah, no, you were right there.
Winston, I was very close.
I totally forgot that Francis existed. It is Switch, PlayStation 5, and Windows.
There you go. Not available on Xbox.
Yep.
So they made an exception for the Switch because of the install base, probably. Maybe because they saw like a convergence with like the audience or something. I'll be interested to see, first of all, how well this game performs in general and how well it performs on Switch. It would be really weird if PlayStation made a game that sold better on Switch than it did on PlayStation.
Yeah, I wonder what the audience is like for people who are picking it up on Switch.
Yes.
How many people are going to be PlayStation fans that are buying this game on Switch for the portability factor? How many are just people who are just excited that there's a new Lego game on Switch? Like it's hard to know where exactly the audience, people who are familiar with the Horizon series but haven't played it because they don't own a PlayStation and then the Lego game's coming out. Like
it does feel like it requires like the audience is part of an overlap in a Venn diagram and not like separate pieces of the Venn diagram. Like I think if you're interested in Lego games in the abstract, but you don't fit any of the other criteria of like knowing about Horizon or like being a PlayStation fan, why would you pick this up?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I feel like both parts need to be true. Whereas like you don't necessarily need to be like a DC Comics fan to get like Lego DC, right? Or like Lego. Although maybe you do. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, I feel like the Lego DC as an example, You know who Batman is. You know who
That's
the
true.
Joker is. You know all that stuff. Kids know all that stuff.
You know who the Condiment King is.
You know who the Condiment King is.
You know who Cheetah is.
You know who Cheetah is.
You know who Cheetah is.
But Lego Horizon Adventures, I wonder if... I mean, because there's, like, dinosaur-like things in Horizon, right?
Yes.
So, like, maybe that's enough. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, maybe... There's nothing specifically in it that seems like you have to know the Horizon franchise really well in order to enjoy it. And so maybe just like it is enough on its own for a kid or somebody who doesn't have familiarity with the Horizon series that it still looks exciting and interesting.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I guess like Lego has also, I mean, I don't really know how they did this, but like they did accomplish like Lego City Undercover, right? Like that's a thing where it's just like it's kind of just like a general send up of like action movies, right? And not like a specific one, so it's not pulling in any fans of like an IP. And like somehow Lego Ninjago is just like a brand all on its own. So like I don't know, maybe Lego as an entertainment brand also just like has its own appeal.
Yeah, it's just enough.
Right.
Do you think that this portends any future Sony releases?
Lego The Last of Us, Lego Parappa
well,
the Rapper.
I mean just like straight up, you know, Sony PlayStation
versions,
releases, like showing up on Switch, because this feels like such a exception, but a weird exception to make.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I kind of don't expect it. I guess it sort of depends on like what, because you know, like PlayStation also just put out their PlayStation 5 Pro, and like who knows how many years away we are from like PlayStation 6 or whatever. And you know the demands on the hardware just get like more and more extreme every year. And like I wonder how much the next generation of Switch will be able to keep up with any of that if you know they did want to port stuff over, and how successfully the Switch 2 sells, which I don't think is a given, right? Like the Switch 1, we'll get to it in a bit, is a phenomenon, one of the best-selling pieces of hardware of all time, and like it just sort of became this undeniable juggernaut. If they're making a Lego Horizon game, they'd be stupid not to put it on Switch, and I don't know if that'll necessarily be true of what comes next.
Yeah, totally.
Or that it'll be, and honestly, maybe it won't even be true now. Right? Like maybe this would have been a hit and a great thing to have on Switch 2 years ago. Right? And I'm not saying that the Switch is like a dead platform, but it is in a way a dying platform, right? Just feels like there's less like juice around having your game come out on Switch now than there was, you know, years ago.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the new releases. Let's close this segment out. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433 when a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, weird Star Wars news.
Yes.
This week.
A phrase that seems like it's probably uttered more often than not. But specifically, we're talking about the new like trilogy of movies that was not really officially announced, but was articles written about it from Simon Kinberg.
Yes.
A new trilogy in development, in early development. Kinberg, I guess like related to Star Wars, I didn't know this because he was an executive producer on Star Wars Rebels, the animated show, and wrote a few episodes. And I guess was also part of the brain trust that was working on the original incarnation of like the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, so like he is a Star Wars guy for sure. And one thing I just wanted to like, usually when we get like announcements about these new movies or like these creative partnerships, it's like writers, yes, but directors. They're usually like director-led projects. And it said that Kinberg would be writing and producing these 3 movies. So I immediately jumped to the like, Kinberg doesn't have a great track record of directing, and also just like hasn't directed a lot of movies. So like, but he is not being like he's not said to be directing these movies.
And he, when you say he doesn't have a great track record, because he was involved as a writer and producer in or at least a lot of the X-Men movies,
right?
And directed Dark Phoenix,
right, which is a bad movie.
And although I'm willing to,
okay,
I didn't see it. I'm willing to give him a little bit of grace because that a movie like that, like had to have been noted to death,
right? And
not that the same thing wouldn't happen with a Star Wars movie,
right? But I mean, also any X-Men movie has to be like pried out of Bryan Singer's, wet, sweaty hands. So I'm sure that was also just a nightmare to even get through that in any way, shape, or form.
But that news made us think, let's just run down all of the announced Star Wars movies.
Yes.
And I guess we can discuss whether we think they'll even happen.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm kind of like, I will believe it when I see it with all of these movies.
Right.
Mark, do you want to run us through the list for whatever reason that website is wreaking havoc on my browser?
Sure. I'll start with Taika Waititi's untitled Star Wars movie that was first reported in January 2020. And I think the last update we got was late 2023 when he said he was still working on it.
Great. So doesn't it seem like the entire culture has turned on Taika Waititi?
Yes. Although,
because that like soccer movie that he made, everyone was like universally terrible. Thor: Love and Thunder, people were like, woof. It feels like there's no way this movie comes out.
I know. Well, the TV show What We Do in the Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how much involvement he has with that, but that is.
I mean, he's got like an EP credit on it, right?
Uh-huh.
Like because he made the original movie.
And then Our Flag Means Death, which I never watched, but was on Max.
Right,
is well regarded,
and it's pretty good. Yeah.
But I do know what you mean. That in general, I feel like the culture has turned
we have
on
now,
Taika Waititi.
We're like, hey, this thing that we thought was cute, now we hate.
Yes. And
so,
now
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't necessarily expect that one to see the light of day.
This is also the one I think that we know the least about, and that there's like absolutely no premise or characters tied to it. Right? Just like Waititi gets to do whatever he wants.
And as far as I know, it's not like he ever showed up at like a Star Wars celebration or anything like that. Like, it wasn't announced to the fans.
But there was like that weird like pastel logo.
Oh,
that
you're
looks
right.
A little bit like 1970s.
You're right. At like the investor day that Disney had in 2020, when they were announcing like all of those projects that were going to eventually show up on Disney Plus and stuff.
And
you're
he directed an episode of Mandalorian. He voices the IG robot. So like he's connected to it, but yeah, it just this one seems like a far cry from reality at this point.
Then we have three movies.
We are running out of time.
Okay. Well, we have three movies that were announced at Star Wars Celebration, like the previous one. The new Rey movie.
Right. Which has now lost director or writer again, right?
Right. Same director, still attached, but has gone through a couple of writers.
Right.
Then there's the like TV Dave Filoni TV universe, bringing it all together type thing.
Right. Which, but also that is separate from the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which is supposed to come out next year, and I believe
2026.
2026.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I think that one has a shot.
Well, that one they're like actually filming.
Sure. Okay.
And are going to finish filming.
Okay, but also that could become a TV show or whatever. Like, I know that while making like Book of Boba Fett and like season 3 of Mandalorian, people didn't know what they were filming. We're at the end of this already. I think we need to do like a whole episode just about like our Star Wars anxieties.
Yeah.
What was the last one?
The James Mangold Dawn of the Jedi movie.
Right.
That's being written by Bo Williams.
Do we think that's still happening?
Bo Willimon.
The first two
I got there.
were wrong. Do we still think that's happening? Because Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, well, a movie that you and I both liked well enough, basically bombed.
I know, doesn't it to me it feels like the Rian Johnson trilogy type thing where they
Still holding that hope.
They made the announcement before the movie was released, before The Last Jedi was released, before Dial of Destiny was released.
Right.
And then the movie came out, and it does make me wonder if they are taking another look at it.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that Mangold has that Bob Dylan biopic that he's finishing up.
Oh,
The one
that's mangled? I didn't realize that.
yes,
Okay.
and so maybe this is what he will
Maybe he
move
bounces
to
back.
next. Yeah.
Who knows? All right. Well, so we were accompanied by an ensemble at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix. We will have to talk Star Wars at another date. Mark, let's get into the news.
Last week, Nintendo released their latest financial report, which includes their activity for Q1 and Q2 of the current fiscal year, which ends in March 2025. So we're talking about April 2024 through September 2024.
Right. Remember, financial year for Nintendo ends at the end of the first quarter of like the regular year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's some takeaways. Hardware sales are down 31% from this same period last year. And of course, last year did include the release of Tears of the Kingdom.
Right, which, is obviously something that's going to be driving hardware sales. One thing that I thought was interesting about this down 31% Switch hardware sales is that both the like regular Switch and the Switch Lite sales are technically up, albeit minusculely, from the same period in the previous year. 0.7% up for the regular Switch, 7.5% for the Switch Lite. It's just that the sales of the OLED model plunged 46.8%.
Wow. I wonder if some of that 7.5% growth for the Nintendo Switch Lite was the Hyrule Edition.
I bought it.
Released around Echoes of Wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
Software sales were also down 27.6% from the previous year. And they've reduced both their hardware and software forecast for the entire fiscal year.
Right.
So hardware-wise, they were originally planning to sell 13.5 million. They've reduced that by 1 million, so now they're planning to sell 12.5 million by the end of March next year.
And it's maybe a little bit hard to conceptualize like what they may have thought was going to drive those numbers, because like we're gonna get to some of the like million plus sellers over this the last 6 months, and like I don't know, it all seems like pretty okay, and I'm not, I'm kind of just like, what would have performed better than it is? You know what I mean? Like what were they? Well, and they're just making up. All they can do is guess, right?
Right.
How popular things are going to be. So
I guess that's true. It's also interesting to think that they haven't really pulled, at least in North America, like a lot of levers. Like there's never been a price drop.
Right.
They made the Mario Kart bundle basically permanent for the standard Switch, but otherwise there hasn't been excessive bundling. There hasn't been price cuts. Like it seems like
it's like in the past Nintendo's been really good about doing like Nintendo Selects or like whatever, doing like an official and forever price drop on games. But like, Breath of the Wild, if you want to buy it now, it's going to cost you $60 unless you like get it on sale. Which like you can do. It's like it's doable, but Nintendo has not been like the one to make the move of being like, no, the following games are now just like cheaper games. They have not done that this generation.
Right. Also, and they do point this out in their like the presentation that they give around the numbers, that for console in its 8th year, it's still selling incredibly well.
Sure. Yes.
And to that point, lifetime sales of the Switch are now at 146.04 million.
Yeah.
So to put that in context, the Nintendo DS lifetime sales were 154.02 million, and the PlayStation 2 lifetime sales were somewhere above 155 million, maybe 160, but
we don't know.
We don't know. Nobody knows.
Sometimes
for sure.
Numbers get so big we don't know them.
That is possible.
So yeah, I mean the Switch is still trailing like by 10 million on the PlayStation 2, and like as we get these like revisions down, it is now kind of like, well, maybe it never catches up.
I don't know. I think it's still inevitable, because let's say that they release the Switch 2 early next year. The Switch isn't going to just stop selling.
Right.
It will take a big hit, but they could drop the price. They could do a whole load of things if they want to push another 10 million Switches.
Sure, if that's like their goal for some reason.
Yeah.
Just for a point of reference, what they've sold over the last 6 months is that like 4.72 million. So like, just under 5. So yeah, I mean, I guess like 10 million. That's only another like
it's not that
year.
crazy, especially when you consider that the holidays, will probably
sales,
sell another couple billion just by themselves. So yeah, especially if you consider that 4.72 million and their goal is 12.5 in the next half of the year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're planning on the holidays being pretty big. There were 9 1 million plus sellers on the Switch this fiscal year so far. 6 Nintendo published titles and 3 from other publishers.
We should try to guess what we think the other publishers are.
Oh yeah,
or what those games are.
The 4 from Nintendo,
or 4 of them from Nintendo.
4 of them from Nintendo that they called out. Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom sold 2.58 million, which is not bad considering it released on the 26th of September, so just 5 days before the end of the reporting period. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, 2.31 million, now with a lifetime total of 64.27 million.
So many copies of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe have been sold.
It's just wild.
64.27 million.
Especially when you consider, which we'll get to in a little bit, like that it will be playable on the Switch too.
Yep.
Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, 1.94 million, and is now sold more than the original GameCube release. And Luigi's Mansion 2 HD at 1.57 million.
Which, hey, a game that both Mark and I enjoyed, played, and finished.
Yeah, loved.
Had a great time.
Yep. Nintendo did a little comparison of how various franchises are selling much better on Switch than in previous generation.
But specifically in the previous generation.
Yes.
So they're comparing it to the Wii U, great, and the 3DS, which 3DS like sold okay. But like it's a weird comparison to draw. They are trying to highlight that like these sort of like second string franchises are coming up in popularity, or at least have found more success on Switch than they did in the immediately previous generation.
Yeah, but you're right. It is an odd comparison. So let's talk Pikmin.
Sure.
So there's the Wii U. It's like 1.78 million on the Wii U / Nintendo 3DS. And then 7.86 million units on the Switch.
Right. So it's like 4 times as many, right?
Right, but the Wii U had Pikmin 3.
And the 3DS had Hey Pikmin.
Yep.
And that's it. Those are the only games. Meanwhile, Pikmin's 1, 2, 3 Deluxe, and 4 all came out on Switch. And the Switch has a bigger install base than both those other platforms combined. So like it's not surprising that they sold 4 times as many. I don't know. It's a weird point of comparison.
It feels like a similar story with Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yes.
Where the Wii U had Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Yeah, that's it.
And there wasn't a Xenoblade game on 3DS?
No, there was. There was a version of the first one, yes.
Okay.
But only on new 3DS. It was one of the few games not playable on, it's like that and The Binding of Isaac for some reason, were only playable on new 3DSs, not regular 3DSs.
But then the Switch has the remake of the first one, has the second one, it has Torn of the Golden Country, like that was released as a separate SKU, and then it has 3
the third one, right?
So it's like, yes, on 3DS and Wii U it only sold 1.41 million, and it sold 7.17 million on Switch, but also compare the what was actually released for each system. So
right. I mean, Metroid is also on this list too, and it's maybe that's a little bit more of a direct comparison because there were no Metroid games on Wii U and the 3DS did have Samus Returns, the remake of Metroid 2. So like that is something, but that came out way late in the 3DS's life cycle after people had already moved on to the Switch. And then the Switch had Metroid Dread and Prime Remake. So
also 3DS did have Federation Forces.
Thank you for keeping me honest.
But
I appreciate it.
It's interesting that maybe not totally surprising that between those two, and maybe they count virtual console sales, we have no way of knowing, but between those two, it didn't crack 1 million, and yet
on
Samus
3DS,
Returns must have done well enough that they were like,
right,
we're going to continue to invest in Metroid as a series.
Yeah, it's a good and interesting point. And then the other one on here is Kirby, which 5.62. This one actually does feel like a pretty decent comparison, right?
Yeah.
5.62 million copies on Wii U and 3DS versus 15.08. So about 3 times as many sold on Switch. And yeah, Switch has had like pumped out a lot of different Kirby games, but like I think that's mostly on the strength of like Forgotten Land and Star Allies, right?
I think that's right.
Whereas like there were other big Kirby games on 3DS and Wii U. 3DS in particular, Planet Robobot was like a big title. But so they just wanted to like trot out that like Switch is the thing that has revitalized these old franchises. Just a strange point of comparison.
Other news from Furukawa's comments around the financial report. So Nintendo is still expecting to reveal the successor to the Nintendo Switch before the end of March 2025.
Yep.
That's still being teed up.
I love, by the way, that this is news is that what they've said is still true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. They do not expect the fact that the successor is looming out there to impact sales of the Switch this holiday season. And I like his thinking where it's like, the system is 8 years old.
Right.
The people who are picking up a Switch now are not people who are like, but maybe I'll wait for the bleeding edge.
Right. The forces that are still making the Switch sell are not going to be slowed down by the phantom of a new Switch coming out sometime next year.
And yet,
Yet,
we still think it's true that they're not saying anything about it before the new year.
Oh, right. I mean, I think there's a difference between a phantom and an active marketing campaign.
Yeah.
I think it would be foolish to actively market a new Switch before the holidays. To say like, yeah, we have it and we'll talk about it later is fine.
Yeah. There are 34 million Nintendo Switch Online subscribers, down. This is actually down 4 million from the last time they reported, but they said that they are attributing that to the fact that there wasn't a big new online game that has been released recently.
Yeah, and that is a great point. I was looking at, I'm now just all about making spreadsheets, right, for Nintendo stuff. But I was looking at the spreadsheet of Nintendo first-party games that I made, and the last first-party game that even had DLC. Do you want to guess either when it was or what it was?
Was it Splatoon?
So this is not the releases of the DLC. This is the releases of a game that had
Oh,
DLC.
I'm trying to quickly go through my Rolodex of games. It was nothing this year.
Nothing this year has DLC. That's correct. You got to go back to the beginning of 2023.
Oh my gosh.
And Fire Emblem Engage.
Wow.
Was the last new game that Nintendo published that would have DLC for it. So like their online support, like obviously they're doing things with Nintendo Switch Online, but they're not like the things that they're putting out now are like one and done. Shut it down.
Yeah.
Like ongoing support is not really like a thing for games right now.
That's so interesting. Wow, 2023.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
And this is ignoring F-Zero 99.
Right.
Right. And I don't know why I feel justified in ignoring that, but I am.
Okay, and then the other bit of news that Furukawa just kind of casually drops in all of this is that they confirmed that the successor to the Switch will be backwards compatible with Switch software and Nintendo Switch Online.
Fantastic. Seems like something that we knew already. I have seen a little bit of people being like, does this mean we can use the same carts? Are the physical carts backwards compatible as well? I have to assume that they are.
Yeah, that's my expectation as well.
Games, right?
Yeah, there is precedent for that with the basically all of the handhelds have done that. The only reason,
and most of the the Wii could play GameCube games, the Wii U could play Wii games. So this is another thing that I've been hearing that it drives me up the wall, is people saying that like Nintendo's not usually doesn't usually do backwards compatibility, and the move to the Switch was the first time in like a decade and a half that they hadn't done it.
Right, and that was, we can easily chalk it up to the fact that they went from discs to these little carts. And so that's my expectation, is that it'll be like a 3DS type thing, that the Switch 2 will have a little nub or a little notch or something,
a little bit different shape.
Something that differentiates it, but otherwise that they will all just work.
I assume that as well. Yes.
Which is really exciting, but does really raise questions about, you have 64 million people who have bought Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yes.
How do you, and that will continue to work on the new system.
Right.
What do you do to entice people to pick up a new one?
Right. And do you? I mean, like, it seems like a no-brainer. Like, yes, obviously, put out Mario Kart 9. The last one sold 64 million copies. You have to make another one. But it's also like, do you?
But also, for somebody like me, who I didn't even pick it up on the Wii U, I bought
Sure.
Mario Kart 8 when the deluxe version came out in 2017. And yes, I love Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's a huge package that has so many tracks, all these different.
Yep.
But it's been 8 years since I've had it. And so if a new one came out, I would move to the new game.
I would too, yes. I mean, it would definitely sell.
So like, maybe they're fine. Maybe it's not a big deal.
Maybe it's not a big deal.
Smash Brothers.
That's it. But probably Masahiro Sakurai has already pitched it. And
that's going to be so crazy.
I can't. That's one of the like black box mysteries where I'm like, there are lots of things about this generational shift with Nintendo where I'm like, I don't really know how this is going to go. We're in uncharted territory. But like Smash Brothers in particular, I'm just like, I genuinely don't know what you do.
I don't think, and I could, it'll be fascinating to find out what actually happens.
Yes.
I don't feel like Sakurai can let it go. Like, I think if he is alive and a new Smash Brothers is being made, I think that he will want to be involved.
Yeah, I think it is possible that they try to make one without him and then scrap it halfway through and then he gets his hands back on the wheel.
Yeah, he just doesn't seem like the kind of person to me that's like, I'm willing to let that go.
Right. But yeah, well, whatever. We could talk about like, so do you just keep making bigger and bigger games? Do you do something like totally different? Do you like Zag and it's like all new characters? Do you what do you do?
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Also, there was a little bit of kind of like fun stuff from it doesn't sound like it'd be fun, Nintendo's corporate management policy briefing last week.
I mean, I'm excited.
They're talking about like how research and development costs just continue to go up and up and up. But in comments, Shigeru Miyamoto stressed that what the company creates is more important than the costs they incur creating them.
Cool.
Here's the whole quote.
Yeah.
Our research and development expenses have been increasing each year. Since our scale of development has grown, a corresponding increase in costs is in some respects inevitable. However, our belief is that what we create is more important than the amount spent on development. We continue refining our products until we are confident that we have created something that our consumers will be satisfied with. With that in mind, what is important is to find ideas that are worth honing, and this has not changed since the era of Nintendo Entertainment System. Everyone has different interests, so we cannot make sweeping statements about what ideas are worth pursuing. However, one thing we are sure about is that it should be something which has not existed in the past. The more you polish something that has never existed before, the more value it brings. We believe that it is important to nurture developers who take this unique concept to heart, allocate funds to development if necessary, and release games only after we are confident in the product, and repeat this process over and over and over again.
Is this or is this not like the heart of what we like about Nintendo?
Totally.
That they're like, okay, here's what we got to do. Something surprising that has never existed before, and when it comes out, it has to be the best possible version of itself. I don't care how much it costs. I love that.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And it's sometimes it comes out and it's a flop and it doesn't work.
Or it's a clock.
Or it's a mock. I didn't have anywhere to go with that.
What happened?
I was trying to rhyme.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, flop.
A block.
Clock. I guess flop and
they don't really rhyme.
Yeah, let's just move on.
There's just some assonance there where the vowel sounds are the same.
Miyamoto responded to an investor's claim that Miyamoto was a, quote, genius, saying that he considers himself quite ordinary. Which, of course. Right? Like, how else do you respond to something like that?
He's a sweetie. What do you want?
Yep. Miyamoto believes that, quote, game design is about planning and about observing the world around us and figuring out how to assemble those elements into an engaging video game.
I know we're about to talk about him like in a presentation video, but I can't. I like Miyamoto.
You take that back.
Is that fair
Stop
to say?
it.
I like him.
Yeah,
I
no.
think he's great.
And it is really interesting to get these kind of like pithy statements.
Yes.
That sum up so much about what, makes his worldview so engaging.
Yes.
While at the same time, it's not a formula that you can easily
Absolutely.
Just apply to anything. Like you can, but you have to have a support system somewhere that is willing to do that. It's so easy to say, oh yeah, we just like observe the world around us and plan really well and then assemble it into an engaging video game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously all we do is plan and observe and make an engaging video game.
But you can see the elements of that in
absolutely,
like Nintendo's products. I mean, famously, when Miyamoto got interested in something, that would become that's how Pikmin came around, because he got interested in gardening.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
we never saw the game that was that came from him just measuring stuff. Do you remember when?
Oh yeah, that's right.
When he was like, "Hey, how long do you think that table is?" And people would be like, "I don't know, like 6 feet," and he'd be like, "No, 7.5. I just measured it."
Hey, maybe that's what that Nintendo Switch Online playtest came out of.
That could be.
But yeah, I love getting these insights into Nintendo's philosophy and internal workings.
Yeah.
While at the same time, you hear that and you're like, no wonder it is so difficult for people to reproduce those results.
Yes. Yep.
On Monday, Nintendo presented a Super Nintendo World Direct detailing rides and attractions coming to the Donkey Kong Country area at Universal Studios Japan, and then sometime at Epic Universe next May.
Mm-hmm.
The new section
sometime next May.
So the new section opens December 11th, 2024 at Universal Studios Japan, and it's accessed through Super Nintendo World.
Right, so you need to go into that Mushroom Kingdom-y area, past the 1-Up store or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
that's
called.
what it seemed like.
Yeah,
there was another tunnel that takes you to this Donkey Kong land, and I've got to say, I'm a theme park guy. It looks so cool, and it looks physically like they have more space in Super Nintendo World. It seems less crowded. Of course, we saw it with nobody in it, but just like the way it's laid out. And yet at the same time, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of there.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree with that. It felt small to me. It felt like they walk into like a pretty like narrow like kiosk, and like there's not a ton of stuff to do in there. There's like a game, a ride, some Kong letters to collect, and like one kind of crappy food cart. It seems like that's kind of it.
I know, which is just so interesting. It feels like they built this and like designed and built this before Super Nintendo World had even opened or something, because in Japan, the one in Hollywood, it's crowded and they are small areas and they need just more stuff for people to do. And this feels like a whole nother section that just doesn't have that much for people to do.
That's just going to be differently crowded.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's sort of my my reaction to it too, is that like, I wonder if they're getting like too granular with like because this is a world within a world, right? And like when you go to like Disneyland, for example, there are different areas, but they sort of like, with a few exceptions, just kind of like freely flow into each other, right? Like the Tomorrowland becomes like the Finding Nemo area, and like over into like a Small World pretty like gradually, and you don't have to like go into these constricting tunnels and like out into these big open areas. And it's really only at Galaxy's Edge where there's like this threshold that you have to cross, and then wow, you're in a new area, and that feels like you're in a separate space. And I just worry that like in Universal Studios, you got to go there, and then you got to like get into the Mario place, and then from there you got to get into Donkey Kong, and everything just starts to feel small.
Yeah.
And like it's all about constriction and release. It feels like it's just constrict.
Well, and the logistics of it are going to be really interesting, because in Japan, it's still really difficult to get into Super Nintendo World. You have to have like a specific return time and all that kind of stuff. So how will they do that with this new land? Do you have to have two? Do you have to have one to get into Super Nintendo World, and then another one
don't coincide with
to
each
the
other,
Donkey Kong land? Or is it, are they separate? Is it one for both areas? Like, the logistics aside, let's talk about what they did show and what they did announce. Because it's not that it's not fun. I just wish there was more. So first of all, as we teased in the opening, there's a Donkey Kong rhythm bongo game.
Which they do refuse to call Donkey Konga.
Purposefully and spitefully.
Yes.
So this Donkey Kong bongo rhythm game where 3 people can play, and there's each person has 2 sets of bongos, and there's little lights.
Yeah, 2 bongos, 1 set each.
Yes. 2 bongos, 1 set each for 3 different players. And there are 2 lights. There's some crates. There are 2 lights, 1 on the left, 1 on the right. And you're supposed to pound in rhythm to the lights.
And it looks like it's just like it's a measure that you just like repeat a couple times.
Yep. And then, they successfully do it. And then Rambi pops out. Like animatronic Rambi, which looks fun.
Looking cute.
Also, I thought
the animatronics here, I thought great.
Oh my gosh, the Cranky Kong one.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
So cute.
It's so cute. His like face is all floppy, and that beard is like wagging around.
I'm so jealous of the team members who get to play these games with Miyamoto. I thought the same thing in the Nintendo Museum Direct.
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, what a treat. We also saw that there are like Kong letters like in the game scattered throughout the land.
Kong.
And you can use your power-up band to
So he mentioned
activate
your power-up band, but he specifically says your Donkey Kong power-up band.
I'm pretty sure that they've previously said that all of the power-up bands are going to be compatible. And so I think he was just pointing out that, hey, we have a new Donkey Kong one.
Right. And so we saw 2 new power bands, right? The Donkey Kong one, and I assume the Diddy Kong one.
Oh,
there was one that said DK, which is the one that he was wearing, and then the other one that said DD.
Huh.
And I was like, what? Because all of their last names are Kong. so DD, is that Diddy Kong?
Maybe it's just like the Diddy, and like DD is
I don't
cute
know.
way to
express that. Yeah, I don't know.
That's interesting.
I mean, they painted themselves into a corner with
they did
all the
DK and DK.
The same initials,
Dixie, same thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exclusive food, a hot dog and like a sundae that comes in a DK barrel.
That barrel cute.
The barrel cute.
The sundae itself, like whatever. Actually, there's a cute little like Donkey Kong thing that like sticks inside of it.
I liked his explanation of it, which is the idea that it's like what happens when Donkey Kong like pounds on the ground.
Sure.
It like breaks it up in kind of this way. I don't know. And then the other one's a hot dog that they say has avocado sauce on it or something.
Or he says it's good with the avocado sauce.
Oh, okay.
Which made me wonder, are we seeing it with avocado sauce on it? Is the avocado sauce in the room with us right now?
Yeah, it didn't appear to be.
Did it look like it had like Doritos sticking out of it?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, great.
Or was that the hot dog, or was that the... Either way, I thought the hot dog looked gross.
Yes.
You do get to meet Donkey Kong at the base of his treehouse, and
hey,
it brings me so much joy to see Shigeru Miyamoto interacting with these mascot characters that of his like creation. Like we saw it with the original Nintendo World Direct, where he was like talking to Mario Luigi and was like, "Okay, Dad's got to go now." It's so
pretty charming.
Seeing him hug Donkey Kong was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me want to hug Donkey Kong.
Or Miyamoto. I mean, I'll go out on a limb and say I like the guy.
Yeah. Yep. We then got a little tease about the roller coaster, the one attraction,
just
the one ride.
Just like such a tease.
And he kind of walked us through the line, and we saw Cranky Kong and Squawk's animatronics explaining the story,
which we liked a lot.
Oh my gosh!
He also pauses for a second at a solid gold drinking fountain.
Oh yeah, and like he
touches it,
lingers on it for a second,
and then seemingly is like, "Oh, that's not anything." And keeps going. It's pretty good.
And then they showed like the start of the roller coaster from like a first-person perspective, and so it's really short. You just take a corner and then go up the lift hill. But you can see a Dixie Kong animatronic of some kind.
He says that she's saying something.
And then you also see kind of like a little bit of the gimmick of this ride, which is that when you look out in front of you, you don't see coaster track. Like on the lift hill, it looks like there's like temple stairs. And later they're going to use that illusion to do jumps over the track and like that sort of thing.
Right. But we don't see any of like the actual like thrill.
No,
part of the ride
you get
itself.
to the top of the lift hill and he's like, "That's all I can show you for now."
Right.
And that's pretty much it.
He does say that he recommends the ride to even people who aren't fans of roller coasters, which implies to me that it is weak.
Yes.
So we do see a little bit more of the ride, like sort of from the outside. And I don't know how much of the ride like ends up going inside. I assume quite a bit. But like it's kind of cool that it engages in like the outdoor space, which is something that is obviously missing from the Mario Kart ride, which is all indoor and very like a digital experience. It's good. I think the Mario Kart ride is good, but it is like kind of based on a kind of ride that I don't like that much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice that this, at least in this part, seems to be like existing in the real world with like real plants and fake rocks, but the fake rocks that exist in real space.
Yeah. And I think you're right that it's going to be a family coaster.
Yes.
But he also mentions the speed. So
yep.
I think it could still be fun.
Thrilling.
But yeah, I just wish that, and Disney is 100% guilty of this as well, where they're like, we have a brand new land with a bunch of stores and things for you to buy, but also this one ride, like the Avengers section at California Adventure.
Bad.
Right.
Yeah. We're going to California Adventure on over the Thanksgiving holidays, and I'm like, do I want to spend any time in Avengers Campus?
Isn't that crazy? That it's like I like that Guardians of the Galaxy ride,
sure,
and then that's it.
And maybe I'll get something from the Pim's Cafe,
mm-hmm.
like maybe,
yeah.
But I also kind of want to see if they have like Agatha all along, like people in costumes.
I didn't hear anything about that because normally they promote it on social media because she was part of their like
Halloween
extra ticket Halloween stuff.
That makes sense. So it's maybe just Deadpool.
No, he's not even there anymore.
Deadpool's not there anymore?
I think that was limited time as well.
So who's running? I mean, I know they have like regular Black Panther stuff. So maybe it's just back to the Black Panther stuff. Last time we were there, I saw the Marvels, and I thought that was fun.
Oh, uh-huh.
Oh
my gosh, when was that?
Last year.
Really? They were the Marvel. Oh, the Marvels.
The Marvels.
I was thinking of the Eternals.
No.
Oh
man,
yeah.
I would love get my picture with Kingo. It'd be so good.
Also, like the direct. We've talked about everything that was in it. The announcement,
of course, yes.
Has to note. When they announced it on Sunday, they were like, oh, by the way, this is not going to have any game stuff.
No game stuff.
Here.
They didn't specifically say no Nintendo Switch 2 in this either, but they did say no game stuff.
And they were correct about that.
True to their word.
Sega Genesis Classics, or Sega Mega Drive Classics in PAL regions, is being delisted on all game stores effective December 6th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. Sega had released 5 volumes of Classic Collection on Steam, with console versions that collect, like, most of them.
Most of those games, yeah.
The Switch version features over 50 games, and no real word or understanding of why this is happening.
Yeah, and for me has pinged the question of, like, if this is, like, a licensing thing, or if Sega has, like, some other plans for their Classic library. Is that going to affect the Sega Genesis library that's available as part of the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack? Or what? Like, just what's happening here? I don't get it.
It does feel like it's only a matter of time before, I would assume, and it could be far out in the future.
Right.
But it does feel like it's only a matter of time before some titles start dropping off of Nintendo Switch Online.
Right. And I would expect not the first party stuff. I assume first party stuff stays. But like, yeah, like
Alone
what
in
is
the Dark?
Sure.
Quest for Camelot. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Where it's just like
pour one out.
I mean, maybe not. Maybe they have the licenses in perpetuity, but it just seems so unlikely.
Yeah.
It feels like at some point something's got to give.
Right, and like they could negotiate to like continue. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just planting a flag here. This is something's happening with Sega Classic titles now, and will that affect NSO? We don't know.
There's a Mario Luigi Brothership special event happening for a limited time in Super Mario Run. As usual, you compete in special missions to earn unique statues from the featured game.
Yes, I mean, this is really nothing to say about this other than, like, hey, they're still doing special events in Super Mario Run, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Any new Mario game, they're like, we better do something in Mario Run. It
At-
must be driving traffic in like some direction, right?
Yeah, it must be. As of Monday, November 11th, Wii Sports has been added to the Nintendo Music app. This is the second Monday in a row they've added one new game to the Music apps library.
Yes. So Wii Sports, put it on. It's great.
So good.
Yeah, cool. Great. And you and I have talked before about like how do we expect them to add more games to this library? This is 2 weeks in a row where we've gotten a new game on Monday. Maybe this is the pattern. Maybe this is what we can expect. I say one more week and then we'll know if it's a pattern.
Yeah.
And then they can break it.
Finally, while the Batman Arkham Trilogy has been available as a complete package on Switch for almost a year, the games are now available as individual purchases.
They had not been, you had to buy them just all as a complete package prior to this.
So the trilogy is priced at $59.99, but if you buy the games separately, they're $24.99 each.
So if you just wanted to play, and honestly, like, there's a part of me that was like, oh, it'd be fun to play Arkham Asylum again.
Yes. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking I would just buy separately.
Right. So I may actually end up doing that, especially because, like, I'm pretty sure I have the Batman Arkham Trilogy as, like, part of my PlayStation Plus like subscription, or like it's frequently on sale for like $8 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, just the joy of having Arkham Asylum on Switch for $25, it's not bad.
Yeah, being able to play it portably.
Isn't it weird that Arkham Knight is like one of the games? Like that's a PlayStation 4 exclusive.
I know.
I mean, and by 4, and also Xbox. Like it's that generation. It's interesting that like the Switch can evidently run it just fine.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is that true? Because I feel like when it came out, when this trilogy came out,
right,
that
people were
had
like
kind
not,
of rough performance.
Not fine. Yeah, possible. I've investigated it. Not at all. All right, Mark. Let's close out the news. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, if you are not in our Discord, you should email us and we will send you an invitation. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.